My name is John Brown. I work for a company in Albuquerque, New Mexico called NANOG. Some of you probably know who we are. We hosted NANOG 12 a couple of years ago. First thing is, I think conference presentation, so this is a few slides that most of what I'm going to talk about is my head. What we're seeing in New Mexico and in other rural markets across the West is explosion in bandwidth, and there are some issues there with respect to getting connectivity to the rest of the world, where we typically see a lot of growth in the east and west coast and major metropolitan areas. We're not seeing that access availability in rural markets where the demand is there. I just wanted to sort of bring this attention to folks and talk a little bit about it. I got a piece of mail a couple of months ago. I forget some people who did this marketing, but I thought it was kind of clever. 25 million people or so in Los Angeles, San Francisco, New York, Chicago. So a lot of work being done on the net. 250 million people in the planes. So while we're focusing building our OC48 and OC192 type net in the 25 million population, there's 250 million other people that are out there trying to get better access. And that's a little bit what I want to talk about. Not about this an issue of, gee, I wish I could get better connectivity. It's an issue about that I have customers that are my ISP, and my customers that are ISPs below me have customer demand, people that are willing to pay, candidates to pay for access if we can get to better connectivity there. What we're seeing in these markets, and a lot of these markets are covered by one of our favorite telcos, US West. For those of you that have to live in that 14 state area, you know what I mean. US West is just rolled out ISP in New Mexico about a year ago. DSL just hit there about 3 months ago. Wireless in these rural areas are taking off because last mile solutions, also last mile solutions, are not readily available. I'm probably driving the enemy back to camera crazy, and I'll apologize. Just think about that. I'll stand for the one that's right here. But wireless is taking off in these markets as well. And it really doesn't matter what the layer 2 or layer 1 type of delivery mechanism is. The issue is that the bandwidth is being used and gobbled up on the consumer side, and I don't believe we have adequately thought about how we're going to transport that data out. More increase means more type of technology other than that means an increase in the demand. More bandwidth at a lower dollar per bit per second is meaning more businesses are getting online today. These are businesses that are not new, they're not
traffic to go across the street, we must go east or west. This just does not make sense. Providers, I believe, should be willing to start doing some better peering on a regional basis. Backbone providers will subscribe to POPs in these locations to the point of being unusable, so all this traffic that has to go east or west goes across relatively congested links. I was doing some trace routes last week out of Albuquerque, and I was seeing from various providers transit times in the 800 to 1400 milliseconds on hop before we got to the east or west coast, which I think is a little bit outside of the acceptable range. Backbone providers, as I said, need to be looked at participating in local exchanges. Even if they're only exchanging local traffic, that would be a good start, if not exchanging national traffic at that level. In summary, I want to do is to try to encourage folks as they're designing out their networks for the new millennium here, well, it's not really the new millennium, but close enough, to look at having a willingness to exchange local traffic or even regional traffic out local and regional IXs. IXs that are either in the infancy stage now or IXs that have been up and running. Some of the ones like up in Colorado and Denver, see that the University of New Mexico is running at 12 megabits now. They need to move to 15 or 20 megabits yesterday. That 12 meg link is fairly congested. Tier 3 through Tier 4 markets are, in fact, exploding at a very rapid rate. I would probably bring this along the same analogy of where the Bay Area was in 92 or 93, with a lot of the local ISPs starting to spin up. Users in these markets hate dial-up. A lot of the users in these markets are used to faster services because they're converts or escapees, depending on how you look at it, from the Bay Area or from the East Coast or from Dallas or other places where these kinds of services are currently available, and they're coming to a market where 28.8 is the norm. And now that we have the ability to get a 144K IDSL circuit into a house, people are willing to pay $120 a month for that, for their home access, because it's better than that 28.8 modem. An informal survey of local customers, both being ISP and edge customers over the last couple of months on some of the local mailing lists, show that the common complaint is that hop count is too high. To get anywhere, we got to go through a lot of routers or a lot of devices to get there. Latency, or as the users are saying, ping times, are also very high between a lot of links, especially on provider-to-provider links. And most importantly is that the local customers want to be able to deal with a local ISP that has multiple exits. So they're not necessarily willing to go to a major backbone vendor themselves who goes to a single POP, who feeds out to another single POP, and that POP might finally be multi-home to some other points in that same network. If that single backbone vendor has a problem, that customer is off the net. And what places like New Mexico have seen is you'll all see a whole chunk of the state just drop off the net because one single provider has a problem somewhere on their net. They're really wanting to look at having redundancy at a local level. So buying from an ISP that has a link to, I'm just going to pick two random companies, UUNet and Digex, for example. WorldCom hasn't bought Digex yet, have they? Okay, so they are two still separate companies. So they want to see that redundancy there for, let's say, the hospitals or the universities or the schools, etc. Anyway, that basically concludes my presentation, and I would be more than happy to entertain questions and stuff like that to try to help convince people that doing connectivity in these rural markets, there is a valid business case, we believe, out there for you to bring connectivity to. Local ISPs need the connectivity. large customers in those markets need the connectivity, and with broadband and cable type services showing up now, that access is really needed. So I'll take questions and answers at this point. If we could bring up the lights a little bit, that would be good. Yes, sir.
Hi, Mark Borchert represents Southern. I think your point on local exchanges is well taken, and there's been consensus on that before. But I just personally feel that the most attractive local exchange center would be one where you just run PVC, and rather than having to co-locate a router, just sit on a local Ethernet or something. For local exchange providers, that's doable, and that's hard to a lot of times at nonprofit entities.
Well, on one level, I'm a person that would support any kind of local exchange, however it's built, as long as it makes reasonable amount of sense. I do know that there are some organizations out there that are now looking at seeing a for-profit model in building local exchanges, because as local ISPs move away from 2 or 3 DS1s, IMUCs together, and getting to the point where they've got enough server infrastructure and stuff like that, that they need generators and so forth, there's a scale of economies about coming into a central facility. And I think we're going to start to see some of that happen as well. Randy?
Randy Bushbury, for discussion of why large providers don't appear at local exchanges, see the minutes of the February 1997 memo. Essentially, the problem is that the large provider exchanges all their routes at a local exchange. They're getting effectively free transit to the small providers here there. The large providers already deal with each other over private links and tend to go the next around the country. So it devolves down to can a large provider exchange only local routes at the local exchange, because it is embarrassing and silly for stuff that's connecting between you and your neighbor to go to San Jose, no question about it. But think about the configuration, management, and administrative issues of a large provider trying to determine what is a local route and maintaining that information, especially those providers who don't geographically aggregate their address space allocation.
Valid point as far as the configuration management, I think. I mean, there is a lot of network architecture issues that need to be put into play here. I would certainly think that at the bare minimum, doing a local exchange of local traffic would be a good start. Paul?
Paul, this is we're Will Woodcut. Anyway, what's wrong with the model like kind of clearinghouse, where the local providers in that area come together and set up a cheap, solution to, exchange everything between themselves? I think trying to make a pitch to large providers to do more local exchange, our theory is, I'm not saying decisive, but I think it's a little much, because how many regional markets are there in the world? Everybody's like, me too. That's no problem. But now the major exchange points is that the computer counts are
Billions.
taking a little ridiculous.
To do Carl Sagan, billions and billions. I think there's really to the point. I think local traffic needs to be exchanged better. And I'll answer that in 2 parts. One, I don't think it's happening a lot in a lot of areas because most ISPs don't have a clue as to, in these markets, as to how to go about doing this stuff. And bluntly, I would like to see something, either as a Sunday tutorials or what have, some sort of educational process happening there. And second is I'm not necessarily making a very strong pitch to say that I want to see Digex and Albuquerque exchanging all their routes, because I can understand what Randy's talking about. But what I do want to say is that if I want to go buy 6 megabits or 12 megabits from Digex, I don't want to have that traffic backhauled all the way across the country and be paying for that backhaul circuit when I know that IFC or whoever it is has local fiber in Albuquerque. It'd be nice if there's a way of being able to get better connectivity out of there, because the price point at where that connectivity is now, people can't afford in these markets, yet there's a demand there if we can get creative on how to build maybe a slightly different business case to support that.
So I think that would be a fine topic for control, like the next one.
I do
That's the reason
too.
why we don't have for Bill, because like Bill, I mean, there's some other people that have a lot of experience doing.
Giving away the next NANOG,
Changes from a good thing.
Yes. Bill?
Yeah, and actually, I think there's probably going to be a pretty good panel on that at Supercon. Just to address what you're saying, I agree completely that it's demonstrated to be unrealistic to expect large providers here at local pairing points or even regional pairing points, and there are a lot of reasons for that. I think there's also, just the fact that little startup pairing points often don't have the kind of reliability and facilities that a large provider wants to have in order to not have kind of high overhead of watching out for their equipment and dealing with downtime and so forth. But the flip side of that is that for a small provider that does have good redundancy and so forth, this is just an add-on. If a little local pairing point isn't 100% reliable, it's not necessarily a problem because they presumably also have plenty of transit. And it's a cost-benefit thing, that if it is just an add-on, you're not dependent upon it per se, and it costs $500 or $1,000 a month, and you can, a year even, and you can reach, say, 1 or 2% of the internet through it. Your cost per route received looks pretty good by comparison with going to a larger pairing point where you have more backhaul and so forth. And a lot of little providers just don't have the money to afford the luxury that the big pairing points that a lot of FCC would take for granted. So I think that what we've been seeing the last couple of years is a lot more little pairing points getting started with 5 to 20 years within a metro area, and all of them being fairly realistic about their expectations for who's going to appear with them, which is everybody comes, but not that many people will come, and also realistic about keeping the costs down so that they don't wind up spending more than they justify.
Okay. Gentleman in the middle here?
Hi, Rob Zarko, Chelsea Data. Not sure you're familiar with this particular argument, but there's a recent working paper by a gentleman named Douglas Solly, who's an economist at the SEC. And if I can summarize, goes with his argument, essentially he says there's an opportunity for arbitrage here between local carriers on the one hand with a specific set of skills and expertise and long-haul carriers, but that transaction cost is very high in accomplishing carriers for all the reasons that you're saying there. He suggests that the FCC can possibly solve this problem using its regulatory powers to require free internet between long-haul and local carriers, voice service, and that this could generate a kind of new class of provider that would exist in the layer between the long-haul and short-haul carriers. He calls them service internet points. Similar in concept to telco hotels.
Right.
And I wonder if this is something you consider, is there a role for regulation in encouraging and creating opportunities in this space?
I think my default, without reading the paper more specifically, my default is more regulation is not necessarily something that this industry needs. And I don't necessarily have much more of a comment because I haven't read the paper and don't know the specifics of it. But I think that I certainly don't want the U.S. government getting in telling me how I'm going to move my packets around or how somebody else gets in there. Sorry. I'm just a radical that way, shoot me. But it would be interesting if it's an FCC paper and it's probably up on their website. I'll have to go and download that and take a look at it. And it might be good to have a follow-up conversation on that at either the next NANOG or some evening session.
Perhaps there's misunderstanding. I'm a Republican. I don't believe in but the fact is the FCC already does regulate voice traffic, and already does regulate the industry. And I think
And they do that well?
That's an argument. But what I think he's saying is we're already making a set of policy choices. We can make a different set of policy choices, not using trade
What you need.
but change the terms under which the interconnect is regulated, and that would have some positive effects.
Be interesting.
Here's a link from my personal website at target.org.
Okay.
Economics.
Yes, sir.
Hi, it's Jared Moss from Voyager.net. A lot of regional networking initiatives and whatnot, and also cover a lot of the other new websites. And one of the things which I find interesting is that a lot of for example, Split Rock, for locating some of the same facilities that we do with the CLEX to do aggregated downtown. I think that a lot of the people in those areas also help improve local hearing. Should look at who's also in their areas and whatnot to go and see if the CLEX can go and just pull some cables or something like that between the two spaces. But another problem with that is that they don't understand the concept of pulling an Ethernet cable, and they want to run either a T1 or a DS3 between the spaces, where there may not be enough traffic to justify that.
True. I think that certainly being able to understand what an Ethernet is and dropping a PA FE into your router, if it's something that makes sense to do on the edge there, would be something that's beneficial, because Ethernet's an easier crossover or easier connectivity than having to drag a circuit through. I guess in summary, if there aren't any other questions or comments out there, in summary, I think the thing that we're trying to get across in these Tier 2 to Tier 4 markets is there is a demonstrated need for additional capacity in these markets and an additional capacity for better networking. Instead of being 12 to 18 hops to someplace, we would probably be better to see that less hops out there. And I realize that hop count isn't the end-all, be-all metric of the net, but from an end user perspective, that's something that they're looking at. I would encourage those that are building national backbones to look at other places or look at local or regional facilities and see what makes sense to be able to blow something out in an area that may not be on the current map. There's a lot of bandwidth demand out there, and as broadband moves, that bandwidth demand from those end users is only going to increase. That's sort of the sum of my conversation. If there aren't any other questions or comments. Thank you.
John, thank